G'day, welcome to the next episode of the SuperCoach Paige Show. I'm Paige.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dayne.
And we are back for, well, it's round 19 now, isn't it? So this is the final week of head-to-head matches and SuperCoach season this year. How have we found it this year?
Not too bad. King again on the weekend with 23-17 as my score. How about you, Paige?
22, I think 22-28 or something.
Something like that.
Yes, and I finished.
Yeah.
Mine would have been about 22-10 because I fell short by 18 of you, Paige, and it came down to Floston versus JPK, and I was never in it.
Yeah.
Well, and then what were our highlights this week?
I don't have Selwood. I don't have any of the other really big scorers. It was just consistency across the whole squad for me.
Yourself?
I'd have to say my entire midfield, Swanee.
Swan.
Gazza was alright. I was glad that I put Swan captain instead of Gazza.
Yeah,
That was a good move on my behalf. Cochin was another one, Selwood.
Yep.
That'll do well for me.
Yeah, well look, I last minute was sitting there at the MCG and one of the very few times I got service, mind you, and decided to have a look at who scored well last time I had Pendlebury and Swan because as we know, Ablett's 120, I thought, I don't know if I can use that as a loophole option this week, and ends up going with Swan literally as they were about to bounce the ball, so that got locked in just in time. It would have been about 3 seconds, so happy about that. But I'm very angry that I decided to lock in Ben Kennedy on field over Tom Lee. I went in with the thinking that he's named on the ground and he's probably going to tear up GWS.
Yeah, Tom Lee.
And Tom Lee had a better score, which is still pretty poor, but that would have actually won me league games across my entire, or across all my leagues.
I was very similar.
And it actually lost me 3 out of 5. So
yeah. I had to rely on Danaher to come in and cover because I was looking at a 0 there and he was dropped. I was like, Danaher, yes, expecting a decent score of about 50-ish.
Yeah.
But he busted out at 18 or something. So
Now, during the week, you were asking during the weekend, you were asking on Facebook to trade the rest of your salary cap for one trade. Now, why is that?
I have no idea. I don't know why I said that. I
You
must
do have
have
an idea. I answered that question. I got lots of likes. Thanks, guys, for watching. It was basically because you used your last trade.
I did. I used my last trade. It was a bit of a gamble. I had to trade out Nick Nat. I don't think he's going to play the rest of the season with suspected osteitis pubis.
and then he comes in this week.
He's going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you watch it happen as well. Considering my
And
luck.
who did you trade in?
Yes, bad luck. I got in Nicholls.
Oh.
Tommy Nicholls, which is our talking point of the week.
Yeah.
Great segue, that one. That's
Very good segue.
fantastic.
Fantastic. He was priced at 400,000 odd, but he scored 25-ish on the weekend.
No, 30 something, didn't
30,
he?
yeah, I think 30
So something
Yeah.
it really knocks down his average. It's 91.6 now, which is not bad.
Was averaging over 101.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of options. First, we're going to talk about the upgrade option.
The upgrade options first come off the rank. Here's Matty Cruiser, my man from my team. He's performing very well at the moment. He's in, I reckon, career best form.
I reckon that's what I say.
He's priced at I reckon he's a modest price. I reckon you can still get on him even if you're strapped for cash. He's 5'6", 700, and he's averaging 101 at the moment.
Big numbers.
Yes, big numbers. 6 straight weeks of 100 plus scores.
Woo! That's what
Massive.
we like to see. That's probably the first time he's ever done that.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
back to
so-
back monster scores of 139 and 140.
And how are Warnock and Hampson doing?
Hampson, I think, is still injured at the moment, and Warnock, last I heard, he was injured as well, but he may have come back in the VFL. I'm not too sure. But,
Well, that's good news for
I think
Cruiser.
Hampson's out for the
That is
season actually, so
Yeah.
there you go.
So as long as he's playing in the ruck, he's going to be scoring very well.
Exactly right.
And the number 1 ruck as well.
Number
so
one.
he's not jostling with Hampson or Warnock and switching between forward and ruck. So.
Yeah.
And we've seen as well that he can push both back and forward as
Yeah.
well,
He's got
and even on the wing as well.
Huge endurance base. He loves. I mean, it's no secret he does a lot of riding and cycling.
Yeah.
But he covers ground so well, and we've always known that he's had that in him. And the last 6 weeks, he's putting it together.
Yep.
And his upcoming games, he faces Fremantle on the weekend, as well as the Dogs, Richmond, Essendon and Port. So not too bad there, and one I would definitely be looking at if I had trades left.
Yeah.
I
He's
mean,
got
that one, we should emphasise as well that the upgrade option's only there if you have the trades and you've got the money in the bank. You shouldn't be looking to do 2 trades to get him in your team.
Yeah. And for the straight swap, that's basically if you're really limited on trades and and salary cap as well. You can only really do one trade there. Tom Bellchambers, averaging 82, had a very good, recent time. Erratic scoring, 105, 114. 64 and 75, so a bit worse lately, but he's shown that he is able to get those big numbers.
But when you compare him to Jacobs, for example, that's what you have to sum up, is that you can straight swap him for basically not for Cruiser, for Jacobs or Bellchambers, but you'd have to go, I reckon, Bellchambers.
Yeah.
Especially because he pushes forward and kicks those goals too.
Yeah, and he plays Collingwood next. Last time he played them was on Anzac Day, 106 against them, man. So pretty good for Bellchambers, I'd say.
And I mean, we're gonna throw in as well the downgrade option. So there's still a lot of people that actually have Nicholls on their bench as a non-playing player. So, for example, on the weekend, Brodie Grundy made his debut for Collingwood. Pretty impressive game.
Very impressive.
Wrapped with his debut. You'd only downgrade to him if you've got the luxury of 5+ trades remaining. Bring him in, he's going to net you 300 grand. So if you've got a couple of trades remaining, that really is going to come in handy with finals next week, and you can upgrade a few, maybe sus players, or do a couple of sideways trades if there are a few stars that are rested. So I'm really only bringing Grundy. I mean, he had 75 on the weekend, that's a good sign in itself, but lack of job security with Jolly and Hudson fit, and Jolly's probably going to return.
Yeah, and Witts.
And Witts is there too. So now they've got a fully fit ruck department at Collingwood. So it's probably something you have to take into consideration too.
Yeah. And another option, you do have Blitzarves on the bench as an option. He was rested on the weekend, so that's what Dayne will have to be going with.
But with Zach
Dawson
Simpson gone for the year, you'd say that's the pathway for Blitzarves to come back in and lock his place in the side.
One bit of luck, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'd be ruckless.
I think he'll be used quite a bit this week. Now, the next talking point of the week, and we've had a few of these, but Nick Riewoldt. He suffered that injury on the weekend, and he ended up, after 3/4 time, throwing in the towel and sitting on the bench for the remainder of the game. Look, the Saints didn't kick a goal in the second half, so he was not going to be no use anyway.
He still scored a 71, which was really good.
That was my next point. That was absolutely incredible. So, I mean, it tells you how... That's his lowest score of the year, by the way. Yeah. 71 this year. He hasn't averaged below 80. Yeah. So, fantastic stuff there. But, I mean, now we're all fretting. We have been tipped off and told that there's a very good chance he's not going to play this week. And that's something we have to take into consideration. So if you're jostling for that 8th spot to get into the game or to push for top 4, we've got a couple of options for you. But regardless, we're going to kick off now the upgrade. So again, this is for those of you that have got the trades up your sleeve and the money in the bank. My guy, Stevie J, you cannot overlook him given his form. It has been the most consistent of any forward at the moment. His last 3 games, he's averaged 127, so that's huge. Although he's had 3 weeks of suspension rolled in between, round 11 and now, so 3 weeks in between there. But the 4 games thereafter, 111, 120, 143 and 120 on the weekend. And mind you, he looked pretty ordinary on the weekend and still scored 120, so that tells you how good his scoring ability is. But Geelong have a really easy run home. They play the final 2 games of the season, so that's your prelim and your grand final at Simonds Stadium, and they play Sydney and Brisbane there, which will be pretty good value. But they've also got Port Adelaide and West Coast, and this week they play North Melbourne. So they've got a pretty good run home. And also to throw that in, with the suspension, it means Stevie J's not going to get rested. They need to keep playing him in the finals. Exactly, so you won't have to worry about him getting rested there. So I'd say if you've got the cash and the trades, Stevie J.
Now, another player that's had a bit of a rest in the past few weeks, Buddy Franklin, my man. Now, I said I was going to trade him out, but then he was in and he actually stayed in. So it was a Friday match. I was like, you know what, I'll wait until the last minute, see if he's a laid out. And he was in, and he always scores well against Eston, and he didn't
averages 5 goals across his entire career.
Yeah, and he scored another 8 on the weekend. So very good by Buddy. Got 119, against them on the weekend. I think he's a great option. He's shown that he's a very capable of still scoring those high numbers. I know it took 8 goals for him
Yeah, I
to
was
get.
really surprised he actually only scored that. When I was looking at the stats, and saw that he kicked 8 after the game and got a bevy of possessions, and yet only scored 119.
He gave Carlisle an absolute bath.
Yeah, he did.
Which was good to see. He looks to have overcome the knee complaint. He did have 2 weeks off, he's less likely to be rested in the
the remainder of the
through
year.
the finals. And he has a lot of upside. Obviously, I know he only scored 120 with 8 goals, but he's
even then. I mean, his scoring this year's been erratic.
Yeah,
we all know that, and that's why so many people I didn't start. None of us started with him, so that pretty much tells you where we thought of him at the start of the year. But throughout the year, people have done well without him.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us have bought him in and then traded him out. That's me. But I mean, if you got Rue, what's the harm in buying Buddy back in if he's going to score like this? And he's probably going to get on a run now. I think he's had that 2 weeks off.
Well, he plays Richmond, St Kilda, Collingwood, North and Sydney. So he averages very highly against the first 4, with Sydney really being the only... So the grand final is a bit iffy, but it really depends, what his run home is like and how his form is. But I know against Richmond he usually has a lot of scoring shots. It's just his accuracy.
Is he going to clean up Rance this way? Rance will go to him?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If he goes up the ground, I think Rance will go with him, but if he stays down back, then Chaplin will go.
Yeah, Chaplin will stay at home. Yep.
And another player is Lockie Henderson. A bit of a theme here, all cup players we're talking about. We spoke to him last week though. He's priced a little bit higher than Buddy. He's at 484 100 and he's averaging 90 at the moment. And that average is rising because in the past 3 weeks, he's averaging 120.
Woo! There you go.
What did he score on the weekend?
On the weekend, what did he score? 124.
Yeah.
And prior to that, of course, 95, 70, 125 and 110. So he's really relishing his new roll-up forward, and I reckon he's very well suited there. And even if Waite comes back, I think he's performing that well that we'll stick him there and full forward. And
he looks comfortable up forward.
He is. He's very good actually.
Well, he was drafted as a forward anyway, so.
And Manny Caruso faces Freo, Bulldogs, Richmond, Essendon, and Port. So
I reckon he's become their most important player.
Yeah.
You could say that. I don't reckon we would have won, especially against North. I think he was our most important, apart from Manny Caruso. He kicked our score for us. We wouldn't have won without him.
And one more point. You've got some decent bench cover in Brent Staker, who's been phenomenal. Like, he wasn't amazing on the weekend, but the 3 weeks prior to that, he had 100 plus.
Yeah.
So if you're really stressing on trades, you don't need to trade out Nick Riewoldt.
And that's if you've got Staker in your forward line. If he's in defence, if you've got someone to switch him back with, you can.
Yeah.
And even some people now are using him on... I mean, I've been using him on field as my...
I did last week.
Yeah, so there's really no harm in going with him. He had an off score last week at 55.
Yeah.
Or 55 was it? I can't remember.
Something not 100-ish.
But that was his lowest score last month. So.
Yeah, so, very good option, Brent Staker. And another very good option that you're going to be talking about.
Yes. We're going to talk now about the Dayne Beams dilemma. So a lot of people still have Joe Watson and Paddy Dangerfield, who tonight we found out it's going to be still 2 weeks away. So he's going to serve that 4 weeks with that shoulder.
Yeah.
Joe's still 50-50. Sorry, I don't buy it. 3 weeks for a broken collarbone, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And especially against Collingwood, who
play mind games, I think.
They will just go straight to him.
Yeah.
Now I know that's really out of the spirit of the game, but they will. He's their most important player.
And with Dangerfield,
you can't tell me that they're going to bring him back in after 3 weeks of a snap collarbone. That's just.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's just I'm against it very much. Play welfare from a point of view.
And with Dangerfield, the Crows aren't going to make the finals anymore, so there's no rush to really get him back quickly.
Exactly. Now, we're going to go through this. I've been bugged all week. Twitter, Facebook, everyone's asking me about Dayne Beams. What's the go there? Well, there is a reason I have avoided trading Dangerfield so quickly, and that is because of this guy, Dayne Beams. Now, we're going to go through a couple of things here. So he dropped $25,000, which is crazy. He had a break even last week of 186, and he still scored 134. That is crazy in itself. So a break even this week of 126. But we're just going to roll through this. So his last 2 games, he has scored back-to-back scores of 134. Yes, of course, they're against Udinese and Gold Coast. Still good scoring nonetheless. He's back to his full fitness and playing in the midfield. He's getting a lot of the ball. He was almost Collingwood's highest possession winner on the weekend again. he loves playing the upcoming teams now.
This is crazy.
This is absolutely out of this world. And if this doesn't make a get on him this week, nothing will. He scored 146 against Essendon last year. That's the opponent Pies have got coming up. He then scored 170 against Sydney last year at ANZ Stadium, so the Pies played up there as well this year too. He then scored 162 against Hawthorn last year as well. This is all last year, all 2012 numbers. He went on to score 128 against West Coast as well, and to cap it off, 166 against North Melbourne. Now these are all from last year. He's the Collingwood best and fairest rating winner, so that tells you something already. But the Pies will be absolutely loving him back in the team already. Giving Dayne Swan and Pendlebury a chop out. And still side bottom. You see he's played his best 2 games of the year. Subsequently with Beamer back in the side, but he's hugely unique, and he's only in 1.78% of teams. Now that is largely because most people have got their midfields locked and loaded. A lot of people jumped off Job and Danger quite quickly. For those that have got either one or both of them held on to, especially if you've got Dangerfield, it's only $25,500 difference. Now, subsequently speaking, that is the exact amount of money I had remaining in my kitty. I have directly swapped Dangerfield for Beams, and I have 0 cash in my bank. I am flat broke, but it is so worth it.
Do you want to trade me a trade? And I'll give you some of that.
But look, really, if you're going for Dayne Beams, you can't overlook. I'm going to roll through it again. 146 against Essendon, 170 against Sydney, 162 against Hawthorn, 128 against West Coast, and 166 against North Melbourne.
And those first 3 teams, top 4 sides at the moment. So that's massive.
He loves playing. It's funny because he loves playing the big teams. He loves the big stage. He's a big performer. And if you have, I can't stress it enough, get on him. I mean, last week I said Griffin was one of the second most important thing to the combination of Ablett and Pendlebury, and this just adds to it.
And if you've got a lot of trades and you think your midfield's locked, even consider upgrading a premium to a super premium like
it could be someone like, I mean, if you've got Pritis.
Pritis. Or even I reckon Sam Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell, Josh Kennedy,
Kennedy's
Brett Cotchin, Brett Delidio, someone like that.
If you have that luxury, if you've got 5+ trades remaining, salary cap room, really, I think he's one that you've really got to look at.
Well, the extra 20, 30 points that he could score you compared to those players that you traded him out for, it could mean a difference come finals time.
Exactly.
But don't do it if you're rucks or defence or
forwards
aren't good enough.
And the other thing you got to remember too is that the Pies aren't going to rest anyone because the finals aren't even locked in for them at the moment. So they're not even guaranteed to play in finals. I mean, they're still 2 games ahead of Carlton, who are 9th at the moment, but really, with the run home they've still got to play Essendon, Sydney, Hawthorn. If they lose all 3, all of a sudden they're going to be on a hinge for the top 8.
And we've seen now he's in good form and good fitness as well, because I think 1.78% of teams only having him. I think that's attributed to the fact that people were scared off by his injury.
Well, look, there were actually last week. There were 1,300 people last week that bought him in. Before his price dropped, that was only $25,000, but they bought him in ahead of the GWS game. So if you did that, I take my hat off to you. That is balls. Risk taking. That's what we're going to do this time of year. Take a risk, and he's worth it.
And speaking of trading, we're just going to run through a few of the do's.
What you must do.
So
this is your trading advice.
I mean, it's basically really important if you're fighting for a top 4 spot or even just a final spot in SuperCoach finals. So do trade if you've got Watson, Dangerfield, Nicholls, Riewoldt, and you're aiming for those spots. Do roll the dice with players like Dayne Beams, Lockie Henderson, even Ricky Henderson. Our man.
Our man Dicky.
Who was tagged pretty well on the weekend actually, but he still scored very well.
106 from him.
Do your homework. Look at your final league matchup. So if there's a way to get like a point of difference player that your opponent doesn't have, then really look at bringing in maybe someone completely different that could turn the tide in one of those really important
It might even be worth, when you talk about doing your homework, to even look at, way up where you're going to finish from the ladder. And even looking at who you might be facing first week, second, third, maybe in the grand final, to see where you can obviously get that point of difference and find a bit of uniqueness about your side. It could be a huge
I mean, if you're in 9th and you're playing, 18th, you probably don't need to use the trades now that could be more useful in the actual final series.
Yeah.
So hold off now if that's the case, and then really slam it home. But if you're playing 4th, for example, and you're in 9th, you really need to get this game.
Yeah, you don't.
So that's the time to use the
Scoring
trades.
power.
Yeah. And again, do trade if you're going for an overall ranking. You probably can't win at this point,
No.
but it's good to be in the top 1,000 or so.
Oh, if you are within reach of getting in the top 1,000, or if you're in reach of getting within the top 1 to 200, go for it.
Yeah.
I reckon that's what you come down to as well.
Yeah.
It's possible.
And with Nick Riewoldt being, an iffy prospect for the rest of the year, he might be out this week. He might be out for more weeks as he rested to really, take care of his knee. You might be tempted to sideways trade, and I think you should if you've really,
especially someone like Buddy that's there.
with Buddy who's looking like he's back in form. And
Definitely.
how about the
And
don'ts
this-
from Mr. Negativity
This
himself?
is really ironic. I'm talking about not trading because I've been big trade happy.
It's the irony. This is why you've got this segment. Just a bit of
I just realised it. Wait a second. Now, first, do not trade if you're entrenched in the top 4 and can deal with having an injury premium on your bench carried for one more week. So save the trades, as they could be crucial for finals time, as we always say. Don't trade if you're playing weak opposition, which we just kind of covered. If you need to make the top 8, then you'd need to trade. But if you're weak opposition, don't do it.
No need.
If you have coverage, don't trade Nicholls or Nick Riewoldt if they're only going to miss the 1 week. Of course, you need bench cover.
Yeah.
I've only got blitz arms, so
He'll be in this week.
he'll be in.
Jack Need.
Don't pay attention to break evens and price rises and falls. It's all about consistent scores now. As we've been preaching throughout the year.
Unless you did what I did the last couple of weeks and you're cheap and you had to wait for Dayne Beams to come down in price.
Yeah, that's the only
Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly right. Don't downgrade your players unless you have the luxury of trades left, which I think a lot of people now will be verging on having, sub
Probably
4 trades,
Zero
sub 0
trade.
trades even, sub 0.
Trades. I got 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't bring in somebody because they're underpriced. You want as much scoring
Don't get
power as
Mark
possible.
Murphy.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
Just don't trade. Don't trade.
Listen to your own advice.
Listen to me.
And so is that about it for the don'ts,
Mr.
Negative?
That is all.
Thank you,
That is
Mr.
all. I'm not going to
Negativity.
trade it all next year. That's what
Back
I'm
to
going
the
to do.
team.
Yeah.
We're going to roll now into the tweet of the week. Woo!
Brilliant. So be sure to use the
Yeah.
SCP Show hashtag on Twitter to get your questions answered. This week, mine comes from Dino Castavino. Very good name. He's asking about who to bring in for Andrew Swallow, who unfortunately did his Achilles on the weekend, and it looks like he's out for 12 months.
Yeah, hopes to be running by December.
Yeah.
We hope he is too.
Now, Dino's in a bit of a predicament because he's only got $5,000 left, and he's already got Gary, Pendlebury, Selwood, Kieran Jack, Ryan Griffin, Michael Barlow, and Matty Prittis. Now, thank you for that. So he doesn't really have many options because Swallow is really underpriced. I looked at it and he's only like 460 odd.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the best option for you is Kane Corns. He's averaging 105.6, and surprisingly, he's averaging around his price around that. So I think he's 460ish.
Wow.
He's had a very bad past month, so his price has really dipped. But
Yeah.
he's obviously got 105.6, so he can score. So there's no
Good
real
point
other
difference, and with a couple of, I know for example when Port play Carlton in the final game of the season, the grand final, that's going to be a huge game.
Yeah.
So huge games, lots of possible point scoring.
Yeah, how about you, Ben?
And I have got a tweet from Go Bombers, and I think someone's deliberately set me up to say Go Bombers, so smart move. He says, is Dayne Beams a good option if you already have Swan and Pendlebury? Will they all score high at once? Simple answer would be yes. Last couple of weeks, Swan, Pendles and Beams have all scored relatively high. I know Pendles had probably a sub game on the weekend. But we have seen in recent times, and a stat that came out, that in the 37 times that Pendlebury and Swan have had over 30 disposals, the Pies have won 35 out of those games. So it's a pretty good strike rate. But when you throw in this, when Pendlebury, Swan and Beams all have over 30 possessions each, Collingwood do not lose. So, in saying that, there is a huge potential here for obviously those three to score well. Look, I've already got Pendlebury and Beams, Pendlebury and Swan. God, I'm all over the place tonight.
You're bringing in Beams, though.
I am. Yeah. I'm bringing Beams in this week because I firmly believe that he will really start scoring to what he was last year. And that is some super scores. I mean, I know it was against GWS and Gold Coast, but to score highly twice.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Pies were pushed. I mean, they lost to Gold Coast and they were pushed by GWS. So, look, back him in. Do it. You have to roll the dice this time of the year. I'd do it, especially as a point of difference.
Good gamble.
Yep.
My tweet's from Alex Biovic. Apologies if I mispronounced that. He asks, is Matthew Cruiser the answer to our injury woes? Yes. Put simply, yes. I wish I had the one trade left that I used last week.
So he just traded again.
Traded Cruiser. The same spot. It's been killing me. Nicholls. I bet if I traded in Cruiser, they would have got injured. So
yeah, please don't.
No, I won't. Good thing I have no trades left.
Exactly. It saves you can stop jinxing it.
He's averaging 101. Compared to last year, he was averaging 92. So he's up that. His performance, that shows. I mean, he's in awesome form at the moment.
And it's this last month that's really driven that up.
Exactly. Last month he scored 136, 107, 139 and 140. And his past 8, he's averaging 119.
Yeah.
So across the journey, he's in awesome form. And I reckon he's the most consistent ruckman, if not more consistent, behind or in front of Vincent. And who would the other one be, I reckon? Goldstein.
Goldstein. Yeah.
Yeah, so I reckon definitely.
I'm happy. I mean, look, if I'm hoping to get a Jalen Blitzarms gets named this week, just to cover, because I don't want to. I've got 3 trades remaining, and I really want to only use those during the finals.
She doesn't want to do a Dayne.
Yeah. I mean, look, if there's a couple of leagues that I'm in the bottom half of the 8 with, that I'll have to pull the trigger and use those. So don't want to spend. But if we get him, I'd have him in a heartbeat. One of those players this week.
And last but not least, captains. Now, it's the first time that I'm going to do this. Gary, you are my captain this week.
We've gone 19 rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, look, 17 because there's 17 league games, but
and he's had Gaza for the past 2.
Yeah.
And still hasn't put the big C on.
Well, I got Swan last week, and then Pendlebury the week before that. So I'm very happy with this. Gary this week though, because
he's showing good form.
Don't jinx it. You've done this a few times when you bought in Goddard.
Shaw as well.
Yeah, I don't know about you.
Yeah, good on the jinxy one with the trade. Not the jinxy one with the captains. But he's past 7. He scored 169, 107. Now holding to your seats here.
No.
175. 121, it's speeding up, 176, 154, and then a drop of 87. But look at those scores.
That is
That's probably what I traded
ridiculous.
him last time, the 87.
Wasn't it?
That's huge numbers. That's fantastic. And when did the Gold Coast play? Were they playing West Coast, aren't they?
I think it's Saturday.
Saturday night, I think.
Yep.
So,
okay, so you could VC no, actually you can't because Collingwood and Essendon didn't have the
Sunday Twilight game, not on free to air.
Saturday Twilight.
Is it?
Yeah, Saturday Twilight.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So back in Gaz,
you can't. Yep, you have to back in Gaz there.
Do what I do every week and trust your gut. Don't use this loophole garbage.
Rubbish.
Garbage. It's
rubbish.
Useless.
Useless.
Yeah.
Worked on the weekend.
How can you tell me?
Who's the king?
Worked on the weekend though.
I don't care.
With Swan and Gaz.
Exactly. How can you not tell me that using the loophole is a bad thing? You get
It's
2
not a bad thing.
opportunities
It's a
to name
weak
a captain.
thing. It's a weak, gutless thing to do.
How is it? It's about exploiting the system. You want the best out of your team. This is the best way to do it.
I'm not Essendon. I don't exploit the system.
Allegedly. Alright? Allegedly. Joe Watson is still the head of SCP's homepage, alright?
Yeah, I suppose. I do love Joe.
I want to Photoshop something in that photo, but...
Alright, that's enough out of you.
Yeah.
Alright, that's it. And look, before we get going, we should probably just quickly go over a couple of injury issues that are going to happen now. Dean Turley is back this week, so that's good for those of you who had him because he did a late withdrawal last week. Maloney is back this week. Luke Ball was a late withdrawal as well. He will probably be back in the side this week with a fitness test.
Mitchell.
For those of you that have got lacrosse, he's also back this week. Ben Reed's going to undergo a ankle fitness test there, but he's likely to line up. Now, the 1 week we've been told. Nick Riewoldt, 1 week. Tommy Nicholls, here's the issue. We've been told he's going to be 1 week, but given Gold Coast don't have anyone else to play in the ruck, I'd probably say that he's more of a chance to line up rather than miss. So a bit of relief there if you've got Tom Nicholls.
Yeah, there's still got Gorringe. Gorringe is played in the reserves. He could step in, but
he played 40% of game time in the reserves.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to rush him in to play West Coast up against Nick Nat. So unless May goes into the ruck, Dixon May, it was his first game back last week.
Yeah.
But you'd probably back Nicholls in to be more of a chance to play than not.
Yep.
Now, not that anyone's really got him left, but Grant Birchall, he's 2 weeks away, so could be a sneaky sideways trade if you're in the finals. Keep that in mind. This is a great story. Anthony Morabito is a possibility to line up for Fremantle this week, if not next week.
Wow.
Which is fantastic. 3 knee recos. He underwent a last surgery. He's been back in the waffle. If Fremantle can get him back ahead of finals,
That's huge.
my God, that just adds a whole layer of unknown because he hasn't played in a few years. There's really nothing to know about him from an opposition analysis point of view. So if you're looking to downgrade, he might be someone that helps you out to get you a bit of cash elsewhere.
Yep.
And obviously, as we said, Dangerfield's still 2 weeks away with that shoulder, so if you've got him in any draft sides or anything like that, that's what you have to consider there. And of course, Joe Watson, he's 50-50 to come back this week. I'm not buying it. He'll be back next week, another full week for him. But look, that about wraps up for round 19. That's the last episode of the actual home and away season for SuperCoach.
I haven't got any streamers or
No,
anything.
but it's going to be a huge week next week. We're going to be going through our All-Australian SuperCoach side. So during the week on Facebook, you'll have the opportunity to get involved and vote and tell us why you think certain players should be in the AA side for the SCP Team of the Year. We've got a couple of surprises coming throughout the finals, so it's going to be very exciting. Look, best of luck to you if you're fighting off to get in the finals this week. Commiserations if you're going to play off in the bottom tier grand final. It could be me.
You're on the edge.
I am on the edge actually in the SCP. I mean, the SCP draft. League. I'm actually 8th at the moment.
Ooh,
so
wow, shaky ground.
Yeah, so I have to win this week to lock myself in. But good luck to everyone. We'll see you for the first week of finals next week. Go Pies.
Go Tigers.
Go Blues.